I'm Kyle Connaughton from Single Thread Farm Restaurant and Inn, and you're listening to Ingredient Insiders.
This is Ingredient Insiders. I'm John Magazzino.
And I'm Andrea Parkins.
On each episode of Ingredient Insiders, we'll be talking with chefs and food authors about their favorite ingredients.
We then speak to the producer of that ingredient. We talk about the history, how it's made, and why chefs love using it in their kitchens.
Andrea, it is a beautiful day today in Healdsburg, California.
Absolutely gorgeous here, John.
The sun is shining. It's just everything is in full bloom, and I couldn't be more honored and happy to be at what is amongst the finest of the fine restaurants in the United States. We are here at Single Thread Farms, which is a restaurant and inn in Healdsburg.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Connaughton is the chef. 3 Michelin stars. People cannot say enough great things about this restaurant.
Absolutely. Him and his wife really, when you think of farm to table, that is Single Thread Farms, from at its core. And they are, they're not just growing, one or two types of different produce. They're really trying to bring out the uniqueness and the bounty of California in everything that they do. And I'm really excited that when we asked Kyle what he wanted to talk about, he wanted to talk about fresh California tomatoes.
Yeah, and we had a chance this morning to walk around the farm where they grow a lot of their own tomatoes and a lot of herbs and different things that they use in the restaurant. So that's going to be I can't wait for this conversation coming up in just a couple of minutes. And then we're going to get on the line with Hugo Gomez from Munak Ranch, and they're down in Paso Robles, California. They grow tomatoes. They've been at this, I think, 30 plus years. They grow some of the finest fresh California heirloom tomatoes if you ever been to the Santa Monica Farmers Market down in LA, these are the tomatoes that you dream of. They're
Absolutely.
so great. So it's going to be wonderful to talk to Hugo Gomez from Munak Ranch.
Yeah, when we were looking to see who we were going to talk to from a vendor perspective, John, we asked our LA team, because we have, our amazing Santa Monica Farmers Market program where chefs can call in, and we will actually go to the farmers market for that chef and pick up fresh produce. And as soon as I said I need a tomato farmer, immediately everyone said we needed to talk to Hugo. So I cannot wait to talk to him all about tomatoes. Yeah,
Munak Ranch. They are, all the great chefs of LA, all the great chefs of California know who the Gomez family are, and Hugo and Miguel, and what they're growing in Paso Robles. So this is going to be an awesome episode. I love tomatoes and can't wait to get this one going. This episode is in partnership with the Chef's Warehouse and produced by Gotham Production Studios in New York City. So this crazy California tour continues. We're now in beautiful Healdsburg, and very lucky because we're with Chef Kyle Connaughton of Single Thread Restaurant and Farm. Is that how we say it?
Yeah, farm, restaurant, and we always say farm first because the farm comes first. Yeah.
Amazing. And we had a chance to actually walk on the farm earlier this afternoon.
Absolutely beautiful.
Stunning. Incredible. And we're going to talk about tomatoes today. And I will tell you, when we were walking out on the farm earlier, I saw what looked like at least 10, 15 varieties of tomatoes.
Did you eat all 15 varieties, John?
You better believe it,
yeah.
Of course. Seemed like they're at the peak of the season. How many tomatoes are you guys growing out there?
Yeah, actually throughout the season, which would be June all the way to November, in total it's about 30 different varieties.
Wow.
In there. Yeah. So it's a lot of tomatoes, and my wife likes to do a lot of different varieties, and she does all of these different varieties that ripen at different times, so they don't all hit us at once. So different flavor profiles, different colors, different sizes, in different times of the year. So we're really actually harvesting, tomatoes for almost 5 months, really.
Beautiful.
I love when we ask chefs what ingredient they want to talk about. I get kind of excited, awaiting the email response or the text response. So when you said you wanted to talk about tomatoes, my first question is why?
Yeah, well, talking about tomatoes is really, for me is a great way to talk about my wife's farm and what we do here. I mean, everything that we do creatively is driven by our farm. So what's a lot different about the way that we cook here in our restaurant, which is a 10-course menu that guests don't make any choices. They tell us their dietary restrictions, their allergies and aversions, and we just cook. And that's changing all the time. And, typically as a chef, you say, what do I feel like cooking? What do I want to cook? What do I want to say? And then you go out and source those ingredients. And if you work closely with farmers and locally, you say, okay, well, what's in season, who has what, and you kind of choose. Here it's different. We're actually driven by the farm. The farm says, you have this, and then we cook. Then we decide what we're going to do. But it's not just this. It's like, this is what you will have. This is when it's coming. This is when it's peak. This is how much you'll have. This is how much within a week or on a daily basis you'll have, and for how long. And so it's not just like a one for one, okay, it's what size will it be? How much will it be? And that drives the dish. If we're going to have an abundance of something, then we figure out ways to utilize it in a lot of different ways. And we have this kind of hierarchy of uses. So on the menu or through our fermentation program or creating, things that we may like jar or, pickle or preserve or turn into different kinds of sauces. And we have family meal here because we have 125 staff. So, every day we're cooking for like 80 people. And, we have all these, and then some of the other work that we might be doing with like a kind of farm to pantry type of group and food banks and those kinds of things. So produce goes to all kinds of different places, but it's being driven to us and really like dictated by Katina, my wife, and the farm team. And so that's how we decide what we're going to cook and really kind of drives that creativity. And then we sort of like build around that. So for us, it's kind of like the entry point to really to talk about our cuisine and why tomatoes is one. I love tomatoes. We get so excited about them every year. I don't eat a tomato all year in anticipation of like eating this perfectly ripe when we like really look forward to that. And then it isn't just a tomato. I said it's all these different varieties come in different times and different colors and different sizes. And we find ways to utilize them and really expose to, guests. Because for a lot of people, you go into a store and maybe there's a hot house versus conventional or aroma, but like a tomato is a tomato is a tomato. And for us, it's like a whole world. It's like a whole category. It's not like a thing. It's like almost like a whole, like you'd have brassicas or alliums. It's like tomatoes is like a whole category.
Yeah. I mean, there's all the different sizes. There's all the different colors. I think when we were out at the farm, we saw some tiny, I think they were sweet 100s and sun golds and pear shaped, and then bigger, the traditional heirloom varietals.
My wife has her favorites. We have our favorites. I mean, we're looking at what we're going to grow in terms of when they're going to be harvested. So like that we kind of have them constantly coming and changing different varieties, but variety in terms of flavor, color, size, use. And, we always want to show, to our chefs and also to our guests, like that, some have this incredible sweetness, like the sweet 100s or the small little currant tomatoes you probably saw out there today. Incredibly sweet. Some are much more umami, like very, very high in glutamates. And, and so you have some that are like more for eating raw and some for saucing and some for juicing. And, it's really nice to see that they all have these like kind of different functionality.
So here's a tip for all those aspiring young chefs out there that want to have these amazing restaurants. This is a Michelin 3-star restaurant, which is the highest accolade that can be placed upon a restaurant in the world. Fall in love and marry a farmer.
Yeah, it's just that easy.
And then get to a place. Let's jump back to that time because, we were reading about you. You and Katina were high school sweethearts in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, 15, 16 years old. Yeah.
That's wild. And talk to us about the journey because young chefs want to know what it takes to get to the pinnacle in this game and in this business. Did you start out cooking in LA? How did you get into the world of food to begin with?
Yeah, I mean, I was always into it. I knew I wanted to be a chef when I was 9. My parents spent a lot of time in Japan. I grew up in LA. Katina did as well. We met at a little punk rock show when we were 15 years old and have been together ever since. But, grew up around a lot of really diverse food and a lot of great food. And both my parents are from the UK and we got to travel a lot. My dad was spending a lot of time in Japan when I was growing up. So I kind of got really, really into Japan and Japanese cuisine from a very young age. Started cooking in a sushi bar, working in a sushi bar as like a busboy as soon as I could when I was like 15, 16 years old. And that's what I wanted to do. Specifically, I wanted to learn how to cook Japanese food. But I came up in LA working for chefs like Suzanne Goyen, and I opened Spago Beverly Hills, and Luke and AOC, and dining room at the Ritz-Carlton, but I also worked at sushi restaurants as well. And I worked for a lot of chefs who had come from Chez Panisse, who had come up to Northern California, and I really like brought that back down to Southern California. And we were at the Santa Monica Farmers Market, and it really sort of like brought me into like seasonality and locality and working with farmers. And I went to traditional culinary school, but I also went to Japanese culinary school. Did an apprenticeship in Japan in Kobe, studied sushi, studied washoku, Japanese cuisine, kaiseki cuisine. And then we moved back. We moved to Hokkaido. We moved to the North Island of Japan for 3 years with our young kids in tow. And we brought our daughters there. And we lived in a very, very small agricultural fishing village. I worked for Michobra, which at the time was a 3 Michelin star restaurant from the south of France, Laguiole, and who had opened a restaurant inside this very, very remote, rural, beautiful property, like hotel property that was in Hokkaido. It was really like this escape for people coming from Tokyo and Osaka and very city places in Japan. And also there was a kaiseki restaurant from Kyoto called Miyamaso. So I worked in the French cuisine and also in the traditional kaiseki cuisine. I spent some time in sushi. And so I was like seeing the ingredients sort of going through the French lens and through the kaiseki lens. And so we spent a few years, and that's where my wife started farming. So we were in this ag village. All of the other, the parents of the kids, my kids were going to school with, they were all farmers. And so she started her farming career like on a small strawberry farm there.
Like learning from the other parents?
From there. And that's where she really fell in love with it, because she was a city kid, but loved food and outdoors. And she's just like a nurturer by nature. And so she got really involved with ag there and fell in love and decided she wanted to be a farmer. And then we actually moved outside of London after that for 5 years. And I was the head of R&D for the Fat Duck, for S. Blumenthal, the Fat Duck, for 5 years. So I did all the R&D work there for that, like at a very, very exciting time when kind of like the modernist cuisine movement was sort of like taking off. It was a really dynamic and exciting place to be, and a lot of work with El Bulli and a lot of those places that were kind of really like driving that style of cuisine. And my wife was also farming there on these beautiful Victorian gardens. We lived on the house on this property, these beautiful old Victorian gardens. So she was still farming there, but we always had this dream to come to Healdsburg specifically. We got married near here when we were 23, and we were actually driving to Chez Panisse the day after our wedding in Mendocino, and we stopped in this town of Healdsburg as just like a place to pull over and like get lunch, and we fell in love with it. And we were kind of like dreamed that one day this would be the place, Healdsburg would be the place. So we moved to all these different places and did different things, and we're back and forth to Japan quite a bit, but we always had our sights set on Healdsburg. And like 17 years later, we ended up, opening Single Thread in this town that we first fell in love with. But we eventually, after 5 years in the UK, we came back here and just said, we have to like move to Healdsburg and figure this out. And it took us a few years, and was teaching and working on the Modernist Cuisine book series. And I wrote a book about Japanese pottery, and while just kind of different projects while we were like, and it took us basically 4 or 5 years to like start her farm. And we built this building, and there used to be a post office here that burned down. And so it was all from scratch, and it, took sort of like years to build, but it's been kind of quite a journey, and this December will be 6 years for Single Thread.
Wow.
Incredible. I want to go back and dive into Japan, because I visited Japan 4 or 5 years ago. Blew my mind. I knew it was going to be special, but I didn't realize how special it is. And when you talk about Hokkaido, the first thing that jumps into my mind is scallops and uni.
Yeah.
And then when you talk about your wife learning to farm strawberries in Japan, the precision and Japanese fruit in general, that was one of the things on my visit to Japan where I learned about the Japanese art of fruit gifting.
Yeah.
And going into these department stores and seeing the most incredible produce I've ever seen
those gift
in my
strawberries.
life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those are the ones that she
let's
grew.
talk about that for a little bit, because for those of you who are not aware, you can go to Japan into these stores and find a perfect peach, or you can find a bunch of grapes that is absolute perfection. And and the prices are, they can get quite high.
Sure. And that's, I think, a lot about what has always drawn me to Japan is like this like reverence for like artisanal craftsmanship, reverence for seasons, focus on quality, love of hospitality, and just even the gift giving culture is just like, that's what we do every day, right? As chefs, is like, we're cooking for people, we're taking care of people. It's the hospitality for us like far outweighs like the cuisine. When people are coming here to Single Thread, of course they're coming in experiencing our cuisine, but we don't look at it as they're coming here to experience our cuisine. We're here to like curate an experience for them. So that, like, even thinking of gift giving in Japanese is called omotenashi, is like the hospitality is like this idea of Japanese, hospitality is like very, very important to the culture.
And you've brought that to Single Thread. I think like that is what I have, read mostly, is how important hospitality is to you here. I guess talk about a little bit, and when you were creating this space, how you thought about that and what you bring, how you bring it to Single Thread every day.
Yeah, we had, what was great is we had the ability to build this building. So it was really what we say hospitality by design. So like specifically designing the moments and the transitions that guests have, and creating anticipation for what the next moment's going to be, and how they move around the property, and how we engage them, and how we have eye contact, with them, in different areas. Also, how we completely eliminate any interface with technology. Like, you'll never see us like go to like a screen or pull out a phone or like, so we kind of take all these like technology prompts out. Like, all these things are like really about, considering, the guests and how they feel. But what we're doing here at Single Thread every day is we say like, we're telling the story of today. So when you come in through the menu, through all of the flowers, which you saw all the flowers that my wife grows out of the farm. So, she grows all of the floral, and we have a big floral team that they come, and my wife does the floral design here with our older daughter and the floral team. And so the flowers, which we use a lot all over the dining room and in a lot of like the way that we present the food, it's everything about what we're doing is always telling the story about today. And so when you sit down, you really feel like not only like the sense of place, which I think we talk a lot about as chefs, like restaurants, like really like kind of having the sense of place, but also like time within the place. So when you're here today, this day, you're experiencing what Katina has seen through her eyes as a farmer, as a florist, what she's gathering from nature, and this kind of story that she's trying to tell. And then we're like enhancing that and using other products and things seasonally, maybe seafood or whatever it is. And we're really telling the guests that story along with like the artisan culture that surrounds what we do. So that's kind of like the narrative of what we're doing. That's like, if you think about like the way a novel is with the chapters and how you build that story, or a movie script, or, we kind of look at the menu in this way where we're like telling this story, of today. And then the hospitality aspect of that is really to take everything away from the guests that they have to like think about or deal with or worry about, and really kind of front load the conversation with them. So when they come, they can really enjoy and sort of like move and not have to think about their dietary restrictions and allergies. And it's really to sort of like take care of them, and to really, we use an expression in Japanese which translates to read the air, which is trying to understand the dynamic. Every guest and every situation, every table is different. Is it a engagement or an anniversary or old college friends, or this is a business meeting, or, what are they celebrating something? What is it? And try to like really, more than like, this is our program and this is our script, it's really to like sort of to move with the guest in the way that they want the experience, to happen. That's like most appropriate for that moment. So maybe one time they're going to come here for an anniversary, and then the next time they're going to come back with a group of old college friends, and the experience is going to feel a little bit different. And we're the same. It's really them that's different.
You're so tuned into the guest here. I love that. If we were to sit down and have dinner tonight, where would we see tomatoes on the menu? How are they being used?
Yeah, and one of the reasons that I chose, tomatoes also, it's an ingredient that I think we feel proud to repeat. I think chefs in like the tasting menu format are always very, very apprehensive about repeating an ingredient. It's kind of like almost seen as like, don't do that. Like that's a wrong step to do. Is like, you always want to be showing something different. And we do subscribe to that as well. sometimes because we do have multiple varieties of like the same thing, like say peppers, we might work them in different places. But generally speaking, we're trying to always have something different and really contrast each dish. So each dish stands alone, but there's also contrast before the dish that came before it and the dish that comes after it. But tomatoes are really, unique in that I think you're kind of proud in the season to showcase them and not just have that one moment. And I think guests are really excited about that. And we, on our first course, which you sit down to and it's already laid out on the table when the guests arrive, they sit down, there's like 10 small bites in front of them. And this year, Katina said, I just want the guests to taste the tomatoes on their own, which is something that we do sometimes, but not really often, we're a gastronomic restaurant. Like we're here to not manipulate her produce, but to do something creative with it. But in this case, she said, I want everyone to be able to taste one of the yellow, one of the like the sun golds and one of the orange, just to kind of see the difference of like how different they really are. It's not just the color that's different. It's the flavor, it's the acidity, it's the sweetness, it's all of these things. So we kind of have just a couple bites just to like kind of almost like prime you a little bit. And then we're doing basically a dish that works in 3 different parts. So we're smoking black cod in one of our donabe, one of our Japanese clay pot smokers over cherry blossom wood with kind of a paste that we make from the concentration of some of the larger tomatoes. And then we're serving that in a broth, but basically like a savory tomato dashi with different varieties of with tomatoes in there. So it kind of eats like a very traditional style of kaiseki dish, but it's just very, very California with the black cod and all the tomatoes and this kind of this broth. And then we have a very, very like light aerated homemade tofu that we make with, again, all different varieties of tomatoes and some of our cucumbers on there. And then lastly, like after you have this very rich dish, because that fish is quite rich and it's like smoky, rich black cod. And then afterwards, you kind of almost get this like classic like intermezzo, but it's in all of the tomato vines and ice. And it's a sorbet of the tomato and the peaches from the farm with like jellies of tomatoes and some of their tomatoes. So you're kind of like you just kind of keep hitting the guests, but with like these different aspects where you have the rich and the very umami, and then you have like the sort of like the cold and more traditional, almost like eating like this sort of like more Japanese-esque sort of ensalada caprese, and then you have this like really cold and the sweetness. And so you're taking this guest on this journey of like the sweet and the umami and all the different sides. So you're not just kind of like hitting one note over and over, and it's like to really show that versatility.
Andrea, she's drooling next to me. Sorry, stop that.
Legitimately
Stop it, Andrea.
I need to try.
Turn the cameras off.
I'm not sure why I didn't have it sent up. Yeah.
When you opened, how long was it before you got your first star? And was it a rise of 1, 2, and then 3? And were you sitting there anticipating that third?
It was, we didn't get 1. We went to 2. We got our second star 11 months after opening.
Incredible.
So within the first year. So we opened in December, and then we opened in December 2016, and then November of 2017, we got our second star, and then that next November we got our third star.
What did that feel like?
Yeah, it's pretty.
I mean, you're smiling.
Pretty incredible. Yeah, it's of course it's it's amazing, and it's an amazing recognition of the team and all of the hard work. And we opened Single Threaded when we were 40, so I started cooking professionally in restaurants at 16. I've never done anything else. Like I have done this like very religiously, no break, like we've been very, dedicated to, the path, and we love it. And it not because we're like somehow masochistic. We're just very passionate. We love it so much. Oh, we are having an earthquake.
Oh, we're having an earthquake.
Oh my God.
A little shaker.
Yeah.
Strong one?
That's decent.
Yeah, that's a small one for California.
It's decent.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
let's keep rolling. It's the earthquake episode.
Today's ingredient is earthquakes.
Wow. Let's honestly, sometimes like they'll have see that little.
I want to just feel
the little shake.
We heard that if there's an earthquake and you're here at Single Thread, that you get invited in for dinner.
I heard that. I did want to talk about tomatoes in Japanese cuisine because they're not really super prominent. Is that accurate?
I would say historically, if we're like talking really, really historically, no. But now I think they are quite a bit, and you do see them in a lot of like what I would consider more traditional Japanese cuisine, kaiseki cuisine. You see them quite a bit, and there's a lot of tomatoes grown in Japan at a very high level. So they tend to not, because space is at such a premium, to grow like more premium, things, because you just, one, no one wants to, and two, you can't compete with like outside exports when it comes to more commodity type of produce. So when people grow things in Japan, they tend to grow them like very well, and and people are very discerning about quality, their flavor and quality. It's really important, and so when people grow, it tends to be on a smaller scale, and it tends to be a really high quality. So the tomatoes that they grow there, they really focus on a particular variety called fruits tomato, and it's kind of like small, round, darker red, and has a very kind of like sweet and more fruity, kind of like more strawberry, notes to it.
Like to be eaten raw versus cooked?
Yeah, more of a raw eating tomato, or sort of like marinating tomato, but a lot of like raw. And because umami is such a big part of the flavor profile in Japan, you tend to see a more umami style of tomato. Sweet and umami are like flavors that they really like. So you see like more of like sort of sweet umami, and you see preparations that tend to be more like umami, where it will be with something like with soy sauces and misos and things that really, because tomatoes are really high in glutamates, and so something that supports like those glutamates with more of like an umami flavor profile. So I wouldn't say it's like as ubiquitous to the cuisine as it is like say in Italy and certainly like in California, but it's definitely there. And there's a lot of tomato ponzus and things that people will do.
So you Single Thread is 6 years old, and you also have Little Saint down the street. Which
beautiful cafe.
Beautiful. We had lunch there yesterday. Vegan, obviously vegetable forward, delicious. How how they're treated. Are there any other projects on the horizon for you?
Yeah, I mean, that's really, Little Saints been our new project, and that was really something that we wanted to do in the community. That's really, as you saw, I mean, it's a small community here, and that building is like a very sort of prominent building here. And that was a great project that we got to be a part of with the local family who bought that site. And then our friend Ken Folk, the designer, who started this incredible arts foundation for emerging artists and things. So everything at Little Saint that happens at Little Saint goes back to the foundation. And really like the brief there, as we were like all coming together, what could be done was to say, we're going to do this in a completely plant-based way. So we have the restaurant cafe there, the kind of grab and go, the wine shop. There's a produce you can buy too from the farm, and the flowers, and a coffee bar. And then upstairs we have like a live music venue and place for, different events, visiting chefs. We just had Jorge Vallejo from Quintanilla in Mexico City, and Val Cantu from Californios in San Francisco. We did like a vegan like taco night and like a whole Mexican themed menu up there, and talk and fundraiser for a local group that works with agricultural workers here. And so it's a place for us to do a lot of different things. We didn't have really like a live music venue here, and so wanted to bring that. So it was like kind of like 3 different groups coming together and wanting to do a lot of things around, food, obviously, agriculture, and events and music and wine and all kinds of fun stuff. But for us, when we first opened, we had a 5-acre farm that we leased, and then 2 years ago we bought the 24-acre farm where we went today. So my wife basically started over, brand new farm, much larger. As you saw today, there's a lot of undeveloped parts of the farm because it's still pretty new for us. So as she grew her agricultural footprint by like almost like 5 times, it was really that we wanted to open this restaurant as like an outlet of the produce. So we also have a small farm for Little Saint only, which is a 5-acre farm, and that grows a lot of the things that we need in like more quantities, like carrots and onions and salad greens. And then Single Thread focuses a little bit more on the specialty varieties. But it was a way for guests to come and experience the same produce that she's grown, and with the same process and same integrity. And I could go into her regenerative agriculture and no-till philosophy and all those kinds of things, but it was a way for guests to come and experience that in a much more casual way, obviously at a much different sort of like price point, and still enjoy, as I was saying, like the story of today. I mean, the menu very much reflects like this is what we're harvesting today.
Awesome.
That potato dish
was
delicious.
So
I keep
good.
thinking about
so
it.
Good.
It was my favorite dish of the
Simple,
meal. So good.
Good.
Do you cook a lot at home?
Yeah, we do cook a lot at home. I love to cook at home. We do cook a lot of Japanese food at home. We make a lot of donburi, so a lot of rice bowls, a lot of hot pots.
I know where Andrea is going with this. She loves to ask this question.
Yeah.
5 pantry staples, your must-haves.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty easy. I mean, for koshikari rice, really good soy sauce. Shiokoji, so like malted rice. Shiokoji, roasted sesame, and white miso.
Yum.
Nice.
I have way more, but those are the easiest. Like those are the top 5.
I love that.
There, yeah.
Great. Well, it's been such an honor to be here.
And experience my first earthquake with you.
I was going to say, as they say in the Michelin Guide, worthy of a special journey to Healdsburg, California. It's been so fun getting to talk to you today, and
thanks for coming to visit us.
Really great. And thank you for that earthquake effect that you guys.
Course.
This place is they're so good.
I'm shook.
The authentic California experience. They made that earthquake for us.
We wanted you to feel the very, very authentic California experience. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks
Thank you
so
so
much,
much.
Kyle.
Thank
Kyle
you.
Connaughton from Single Thread. Joining us live from Paso Robles, California is Hugo Gomez from Munak Farms. Hugo, so nice to have you here.
We can see behind you your beautiful farm. Can you show us really quick where you're?
Yes. This is the beginning of the season. You know, those plants I planting in February, and I cover it. If you see it in the back, you know, you can see the tunnels right doing it. You know, I covered it because the frost I had like 3 weeks ago. Even this morning, I have a little bit of ice in it, but that hurts plants this time in the year though.
So Munak Farms is growing some of the best tomatoes in the state of California. You're
in
at
the world.
In the world. Thank you for the correcting me. And you're at the Santa Monica Farmers Market. You're at a lot of farmers markets in California. This has been a very tough year, by the way, weather-wise. I imagine with all of the rain and the cold. How are you guys doing?
That's the farm is the toughest part in the earth, but this is the happiest in the same time. Always had at this time in the season they have a rain and usual that happen in California, you know. But I had managed for that, you know. I'm okay with the rain, and I needed rain. Absolutely.
Good.
You know, more than hurt us, help us.
Good.
You know, help us
We're
a lot.
glad.
Help us a lot. Yes.
Tell us about what kind of vegetables and or fruits that you grow at Munak Farms.
Yeah, what are you known for?
Not indoors. Everything is outdoors, outside. Nothing indoors. I don't like the quality you got from indoors. This is an artificial weather, so you can tell this natural and organically either. So everything I grow, that's upside, sir.
And what do you grow?
I grow tomatoes, heirloom tomatoes, and melons and watermelons, and some squash. Squash, yes, a few of them, not a lot, you know. But the most I growing, that's sangal tomatoes and heirloom tomatoes and celebrity tomatoes. You know.
How many varieties of tomatoes do you grow?
Okay, I have sangal of the cherries. I had 3 of them as blush, and I had sangals, and I had sweet 100s, the ones that are red cherry tomato.
So good.
So delicious.
Yes. Yeah.
And when does the season start for tomatoes in California?
For the season for tomatoes here for us, that's last week in May and the first week in June. Depends what kind of weather I get from now on. You know,
so you plant in February and you get fruit starting in May?
I'm starting May. Last week in May. Yeah, I have some of them, but definitely. But middle of June, I have plenty this time. I hope so. You know, you can see those guys pounding the sticks right now to start tying those sangals. You know, that's like my best. I mean, all are good, but that's the more popular. You know.
And
what is the flavor profile? What does the Sun Gold tomato taste like? What is the flavor profile?
They taste so sweet. They sweet. I don't do much. This kind of weather I want to get in this area. This is a really good weather for, because I got 102 in the day, but in the night cooled off to 65. So that means let them the plants breeding, and give a plenty sugar to the fruit. So it's not a much secret, because I do Santa Monica market for more than 30 years now, and all my customers keep asking me, how you put in the tomatoes? I say, I put love in it. And you need to put love in it, anything you do,
Absolutely.
So that's what I put. I put love there. That's 24/7 is what you need to do in the farm,
Hugo, do you still go to the farmer's market yourself?
Once in a while, my son Victor is the one he's in charge now, to the sales and the farmers market. I need to stay up here to keep the quality, to keep there's a little game to you playing with the water. That's more important. You can overwater it, because if you overwater anything, any plant, any fruit, you put so much percentage of the water in the fruit and you don't have good flavor. You don't got enough sugar though. And how many? They learn little by little. Yeah.
I was going to ask you, how many farmers markets does your son go to in California?
He's going Santa Monica, Monterey, Santa Barbara, and Cambria.
Wow.
And I got my brother, and I got another team who helped me doing another market. So my brother, I had a brother working with me up here, helped me in the business, and he helped me doing another. But more important market for us to keep that ranch, keep in business, that's Santa Monica, absolutely.
I'm glad that you said that your tomatoes are the best in the world, because I first said they're the best in the United States. Yeah. I've always felt that if you've ever been lucky enough to have an heirloom tomato or a Sun Gold or a Sweet 100 from California, and in particular Munak farms, they are so good. They really are the best in the world. And I think you said it when, you have, it's abundant sunshine, it's the soil. I mean, what really makes them the best in the world?
The best in the world, that's the weather I get. This is what it is, the weather. Like I say, and the other thing, like I don't overwater it, nothing. I mean, in that weather, they give it a chance to not overwater, because if you're growing tomatoes in San Joaquin Valley, which is the lowest temperature in the summer, comes down to 90, one of the two. The plant dehydrate because you not put enough water, or you need to put a lot of water to the plant to survive. But in the same way, they have so much water, the fruit. You interact with too much water in the fruit. But they don't have choice, though. It needs to be that way. So that's why. And up here, it's different.
Do you water the tomatoes? I've heard, there's a lot of things on the internet on the best way to grow a tomato. I've heard if you water it from the bottom, from the roots, you get a better tomato. I don't know if that's true or not. It's something I read.
They talk too much. They said too much tricks. If you see a catalog for the cities companies, if you see anything out, they talk too much. You need a practice. You need to come up here in the real action part, And I see a lot of people who's come in the markets with products. They city boys. They not really farmers, But that's not my business, My business, I'm glad. I thank God, God, thank you for everybody of you guys. I got sold out every week, because I pick every day. They pick every day, single day a year, 7 days a week. So
how many years have you? How many years have you been farming?
30 up here in this place. That's 37 years.
And how did you become a farmer?
I'm born in Mexico in the farm. My papa is still farming up there, and I go on school and I'm start a little basis things, and I'm in contact with nature, all time, and I like it. I love it, and And this, what do you learn little by little? Nobody's come and be a genius to doing nothing except if you not practice for a long time. That's my opinion. And this what happened with me. Year by year you learn, but you never learn enough. It's something. It always comes something new in a thing, and then, but it's in detail and 100. So you need to know 95% what you're doing it.
So
you
you've
ended
been
up with a good fix.
Yeah, so you've been going to the Santa Monica's Farmers Market for 30 years. Today,
Yes.
the Santa Monica Farmers Market, I think, is one of the most popular places, even for just people tourists from out of town to visit. But for a long time, the Santa Monica Farmers Market was very important and still is to chefs in Los Angeles. They love to go there to buy for their restaurants. And do you know how much of your customers are actually chefs in restaurants?
Yes, I'm. That's a good point right there. That's 15 years ago. I selling much more in the table compared with for a restaurants. What happened? The society changed a lot. The youngest people, they not liking cooking, so they buy in the restaurants. So the restaurants industry come and get bigger and really good for us. I move a lot of products because they pre-order like you guys, and that's good for me. And they go in the restaurant industry because Los Angeles by itself, this and the more, one of the attractives for the tourists come to visit LA, from Europe, from Asia, for whatever, they come and visit LA and they look for a good restaurants. Now, with the social things, with the Instagram and all those places,
Right.
they know it from here to India, China, wherever. When they come with all the information, and I selling products for the most high reputation chefs in LA, and in Santa Monica and all that area. So that helps a lot. This really pretty good for us, promoted my products. And
Do you know some of the chefs that buy your tomatoes?
I know a lot. I got this one of the from Republic,
Walter,
Yeah.
sure, Walter, yeah.
Walter. I know Josiah. Is Josiah
Yep,
is the old
Citron.
school, know. Yeah, yes, imagine. I'm for more than 30 years in the business, so I know Campanelli. He passed away.
Yeah, Mark, yeah.
Mark Campanelli. And I know about the guy who used to have giraffe. There's a Raf. It's Josiah partner, long time.
Josiah's partner,
Josiah's partner. I know
Raphael.
Rafael, correct. So now he's got another place where the name is Luneta. He's got an 25th and
Raphael
and Pico.
Luneta. Yeah.
Yeah, Luneta. Yes, and Jelena, Justa. I know that chef, which is my big friend, the same as the other people.
So you're selling to the who's who, the very best restaurants in Los Angeles, which is fantastic.
Bestia. I saw Bestia. I saw every. I've had Great White. All those guys who's. I appreciate it. I appreciate his business, and I appreciate they support us really good, and they buy our products.
Well, we feel really lucky to sell your tomatoes at Chef's Warehouse. I mean, it's an incredible partnership. We love your products. If you are interested, please go to chefswarehouse.com and you can buy these beautiful tomatoes.
Hugo, how many cases of tomatoes are you producing per day or per week?
Yeah, what is your crop typically?
During the peak of the season?
The peak in the season, I pick 500 boxes of the single tomatoes.
Per week?
Yes, per week, yes.
Wow, that's a lot of tomatoes.
That's a lot.
And I sold out, and I don't have enough. I still don't have enough. So this season especially, I double them up, triple them up. The quantity of plants I planted in the beginning, because in the beginning I never got enough for everybody. So now I put 3 times as much.
How big is your farm? How many
acres? This 85 acres.
Huge.
This 85 acres, which is 65 acres, going to tomatoes, and the rest of them, they go to melons and watermelons.
Wow. I
They
think
buy
John and
that
I need to
watermelon
come
really
visit.
And this is a family business. How many of your family members work at Munak Farms?
All the team are my family. You know, my best and my right hand, that's Victor, who's make the farmers market for me now. That's my son and all my family working up here. Since my wife, she's making and my wife and my daughter, you know, my granddaughter and not my granddaughter, the Victor's wife. They make the sun-dried tomatoes.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so there's a whole team and a whole family involved in the business, though. It needs to be that way. Otherwise, you're not made it. I not made it. You know. Yeah.
Do you have a place on the farm where they're sun drying, or what is that process?
Yes. I got a special place for it. Yeah, I had a special place for doing it. Yeah, because I do it natural with the sun, and especially when I got 100 degrees up here, it just take 2-3 days to be really dry.
Nice.
Love it.
Yes.
Well, Hugo, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a real treat. I can't wait to taste these tomatoes, Andrea.
I want to go visit the farm, John.
Yeah.
I want to go meet Hugo and Victor.
Anytime, you guys.
Well, it sounds like the most important ingredient here is love and passion.
Exactly. That's love, and you like it, what you're doing, you know, and end it up with good things. Anything and anytime, you know.
I can tell there's a lot of love in your tomatoes, Hugo. And
yes.
we appreciate you and everything you're doing for Chef's Warehouse.
Thank
you.
And I like treat the people like they treat us, you know. And that's really, really, really good. They're really good. I'm so proud of you guys, you know, in the way you support my business.
Thank you. So if you are in Santa Monica and you go to the farmers market, make sure you are stopping by and visiting Munak Farms. Get their tomatoes, get their melons. They are truly the best in the world.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Hugo, for being here with us today.
Thank you, Hugo.
And that's at 15-20 minutes is not enough to talk about all these marvelous things, you know. But
I know we'll have to have you on again.
Yes, I know the television costs so much, so I don't have that much to pay for. But we'll make it little by little. Okay.
Thanks, Hugo.
Thank you, guys.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Ingredient Insiders. You can watch this episode on YouTube and see more behind-the-scenes content by following us on Instagram by searching @Ingredient Insiders.